From Coors Field in Denver, the Florida Marlins with the slugger Gary Sheffield take on the Colorado Rockies and 400-hitter Larry Walker. It's the ESPN Sunday night game of the week. In Game 1 of this day-night doubleheader in Denver, the Rocky Sluggers jumped on the Marlins early. National League RBI leader Andres Galarraga drove in 2 runs with his first inning double. The Rockies took a 7-0 lead by the third and went on to win 7-2. And we've got overcast skies overhead, a lot of rain during the weekend, but right now we're ready to play ball as Andres Galarraga and the Rockies, 1 game back of the Giants in the West, go for a sweep in this day-night doubleheader. Gary Sheffield and the Marlins hoping with a win today that they can get out of here winning 2 out of 3, which is not easily done. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller. Welcome to our telecast. We're actually hoping to get one in before the rains come. That would be a novel idea. We've been rained out 2 straight weeks. Now, Alex Fernandez, they hired him to be the ace in Florida, and tonight is one of those ball games that they brought him in specifically to pitch. However, he went into a slump 2 starts ago when, in 1 inning, the Rockies' big guns down in Miami went deep. First, it was Larry Walker, the 400-hitter. Next up was the big cat, Andres Galarraga, and he hit one over the center field wall at Pro Players Stadium. Finally, it was Dante Bichette, the 3rd consecutive homer, this one on a hanging slider, and it kind of put Fernandez in a slump. With me is my partner, Joe Morgan. And, Joe, Alex Fernandez, he's the big man, the big game pitcher, and this is a big game for them.
Well, it's a big game for him, but he has to keep these guys in the ballpark. It's going to be tough for him here in Coors Field because he's a high fastball pitcher, and anything in the air here may go out. So I think he's having trouble adjusting to the league. I don't think it's so much the National League itself, but adjusting to being at home, pitching before his home fans, and trying to prove that he can throw the fastball by people. And I don't think he can do that in the National League.
All right, you made a good point about pitching in this ballpark because, ominously, yesterday, the same 3 Rockies hitters all went deep consecutively, again against a different Marlins pitcher. Now, Colorado has had some pitching problems. Billy Swift, Mark Thompson, Jamie Wright, 3 of their top 5 starters have been in the disabled list for more than a month. Tonight marks the return of Jamie Wright, so they're headed in the right direction there.
Well, you're right. If he has his good sinker, he can keep the ball in the ballpark, and that's why I think Billy Swift is the key to this staff for the remainder of the year. Billy Swift throws a sinker, he can keep the ball in the ballpark, he's an ace. So I think we'll find out right away whether Jamie Wright is right or not. He'll have to keep the ball down.
It's Jamie Wright and Alex Fernandez. It's the Rockies and the Marlins. And Larry Walker and the big cat ready to go. The ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by Ritz Camera. For famous cameras and those big prints from Ritz, 1-hour photo, say cheese with Ritz. By VFW, they do anything for this country. And by Wagner, the power to do it. And the waters from the Rockies are flowing right here into Coors Field. There's Jim Leland, the manager of the Florida Marlins, who have always struggled in this ballpark, as if, for that matter, most teams. But they have a chance to win this series. If they can win this ball game tonight, they will have done it. Here's the Pepsi batting order for the Marlins. It will be Luis Castillo, a switch hitter at second base, Edgar Renteria at shortstop. Jim Eisenreich is in left field, and Gary Sheffield in right field batting cleanup. Moises Alou in center field. Devon White back in the disabled list. Alex Arias at third base. Bobby Bonilla is got a high fever, and he is out of action. Jeff Conine is at first base trying to bust out of a slump. Greg Zaun is the catcher, with Charles Johnson resting after playing the first game, and Alex Fernandez is on the mound for Florida. And pitching for the Rockies tonight, 22-year-old right-hander, 6 feet 6 inches tall, Jamie Wright, just back from the disabled list. And, Joe, that ERA, not very strong from when he was pitching before the injury.
Right, and he only threw 1 inning in rehab, so I'm not sure that they're not sure what they're going to get. We'll find out right away, though.
Here is Luis Castillo. And his fastball is in there for a called strike, so we are underway in Denver.
I like what I saw there. That was a fastball, and it was down and was sinking a little bit.
So, considering he's only thrown 1 pitch, excellent so far.
Right.
There's ball 1 down and in. Now what do you say?
I say good. He's still keeping the ball down. The one thing you have to do in this ballpark, I don't care who you are, you better keep the ball down.
Over at third base, Castillo playing shallow. And that is foul. Now, Castillo, if he hits the ball on the ground, that is good news because he has explosive speed. And if he hits the ball on the ground, he's got a chance to get himself a base hit. He is one of the exciting young prospects for the Marlins, although Castillo has had some problems and has been in and out of the lineup lately. But now, here's what we're talking about.
That's a base hit.
Easily. Castillo should have held the ball, and Castillo has an infield single.
Let's take a look at the defense for the Rockies. I think their best defensive player really is their first baseman on the infield, and that's Andres the Big Cat Galarraga. I mean, he is an excellent defensive first baseman. I mean, he made some great plays. You see, he won a couple of Gold Gloves, but I'm not so sure he shouldn't have won one last year because he had some excellent plays in the field last year.
The Big Cat, and lately they've been talking more about what he's been doing with the bat than with the glove. Here is Edgar Renteria. He's got that Gary Sheffield look up there, Joe.
Yeah, he waves the bat around, and he wants to make sure he has something to get the bat started with. That's really why Gary Sheffield does it. You don't want to start from a dead stop. So he has some movement to start with.
248 average. Buck takes a fastball in there for a strike. Castillo still shallow at third. Well, we had a little bit of sun that had broken through the cloudiness. I dare say the first bit of sun they had seen in a couple of days here in Denver. They've had a lot of rain, and that's just the least of the problems. They've had some flooding. They've had severe weather, high winds. They've had tornado warnings. And overhead, we've got the very dark, ominous-looking clouds. Very pleasant, though, at the moment, but there's a 70% chance of thunderstorms. The wind is blowing out toward right field. That one is up the middle and right through base hit. Wow. Talk about finding a hole as Castillo speeds over to third base. They were kind of both cheating toward the middle there for the Rockies, and he still found the hole in the middle of it.
Well, the interesting thing there is he hit the ball off the fist, but because it was up, it found its way through the infield. If he gets that ball down, you get the ground ball that you're looking for. But watch this pitch. It's up. See, and he breaks his bat, but he finds the center of the diamond for a base hit.
Neither Bates, the shortstop, nor Young, the second baseman, had a chance to get it. So the two young future stars of the Marlins are both on base, and here is the veteran Jim Eisenreich. And that is picked up by Galarraga. Over to second base goes Renteria. Holding at third, Castillo. And Eisenreich is tagged out.
Well, that was an interesting play because normally with runners at first and third, no one out, the ground ball, the runner from third will go. So Galarraga thought he was going to be able to come to the plate and get Castillo, but Castillo made a smart base running play there. He did not go. But you're actually supposed to go on a ground ball right here. But he knows that they can't get a double play, so he stays at third base. Galarraga can only get one, so good base running.
And now here comes Gary Sheffield, albeit with first base open. There is Castillo, still at third base, with Renteria moving over to second base now. The infield stays back. Second baseman Young is playing almost right up the middle. No less an authority than the great right-hander Greg Maddux has said that Gary Sheffield may be the best hitter, along with Barry Bonds, in this league. And it's been ironic that both Sheffield and Bonds, who've been walked a lot, have been struggling early in the season. Sheffield with 6 homers, only 19 batted in, a .227 average. That one was down, but in. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, the real problem that both Bonds and Sheffield have is that they never know when these guys are going to pitch to them. And before you know it, sometimes you're behind in the count. And they try to make perfect pitches on you. If they make the perfect pitches, they will usually get you out. If they don't make the perfect pitches, then they walk you. They don't really care.
That is a base hit. Coming in to score is Castillo. Renteria slowed up. He was being waved on, but he slowed up. The throw is offline from Bichette. He scores. 2 runs are in. Sheffield goes to second on the throw, and the Marlins are ahead 2-0. Well, they pitched to him, Joe, and now they may wish they hadn't.
Well, they got in on him. They pitched him away, first pitch inside. Now, this one runs in. He doesn't get all of it, but he gets enough of it to hit a line drive to left field. And you're right. That's why they do not pitch to Barry Bonds in these situations. They will not pitch to Gary Sheffield in these situations because more times than you're going to get them out, they're going to make you pay for it.
By the way, we should mention, speaking of Barry Bonds, he hit 2 home runs today against John Smoltz to help the Giants beat the Atlanta Braves. The Giants, the team directly in front of the Rockies in the National League West. Sheffield is running. Moises Alou takes the pitch, and there's no throw. What a jump by Gary Sheffield, and he gets his 4th steal of the year.
Well, we've seen 2 very smart base running plays here in the top of the first inning by the Marlins. And watch, he takes this stretch, he just takes off, and no throw. He had it stolen so easily that there was no chance to throw down.
Now, all of the infielders are in except the second baseman Young, which is interesting. You got the right-handed hitter up there, Moises Alou, and the shortstop is pulled in, but the second baseman Young is playing deep.
Well, you know, Don Baylor has a lot of different theories about playing the infield in. He'll play it in times when other managers will not. He'll play back when they play in. I've never seen this before.
It's inside, and
I've seen where you play the middle back and the 2 corners in, but I've never seen it where you have the shortstop in and the second baseman back, or vice versa. Because anything on the ground to the right side, he's going to be able to score.
And Baylor kind of throws the book out the window anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, by playing anybody in at this point.
Well, he does that a lot of times, and that's his theory. He believes that it's tougher to drive a run in with the infield in because you have to get the ball in the air, you have to hit it hard past someone. Even though when you play the infield in, you cut down on your range as an infielder, he just feels like that a lot of hitters have difficulty hitting in that situation. So he's tried it, and he's been successful on occasion. He's got burned on occasion.
3-1 the count to Moises Alou, who after a great start for the Marlins has slowed down considerably. He has not homered since April 28th. That is right up the middle. Man, they are finding the holes right now, and 3 runs have scored as Sheffield comes in. It is 3-0 for Florida, and Alou picks up his 46th RBI of the year.
This is very similar to what the Rockies did to the Marlins in the first ball game. All the ground balls and everything was finding a hole, and that finds a hole right back through the middle.
In fact, almost identical. I mean, you never saw a collection of grounders through holes, bloops just over somebody's head or just in front of an outfielder, as the Rockies had in the first 3 innings against Al Leiter earlier today.
Well, I think this is good for Fernandez, who has been struggling. Now he goes out there knowing that he doesn't have to be perfect to start off the ball game. He can kind of work his way into this game.
Alex Arias, one of 2 original Marlins still with the ball club. Just back at first safely is Alou. And he'll dust himself off here. The Rockies won the first game of this day-night doubleheader, separate admission doubleheader, 7-2. And that game started local time at 11 o'clock this morning, which, because of the 6 o'clock local start for this game on Sunday Night Baseball, was part of the reason. And also they had a forecast that the weather would be good that time of the morning. Eric Young, he got that out, and he gets the double play. So Alou runs into the out at second, and they get the double play. 3 runs for Florida, though. Alex Fernandez gets ready to take them out. Larry Walker, the 400-man, coming up third. We'll be back. Night baseball from Denver. The Florida Marlins have jumped ahead 3-0 ahead of Don Baylor's ball club. And Baylor's Rockies trying to put something together. They have not been as strong at home this year as they have been in the past. Here is the Rockies batting order, sponsored by Pepsi. Eric Young leads it off at second base. Ellis Burks, who has been real hot, center field. Larry Walker, he's been on a different planet. He's in right field. Andres Galarraga, and he has been extraordinarily hot, particularly against the Marlins. He had that 529-foot home run against them last week. Dante Bichette left field. Vinny Castilla, that's Castilla at third base. It'll be Jeff Reed, the catcher. Jason Bates at short in place of Walt Weiss, who gets a rest, and Jamie Wright is the pitcher, hitting ninth. And on the mound for the Florida Marlins, there he is, Alex Fernandez, the former Chicago White Sox right-hander. And he's come home to the place where he grew up, Miami. But so far, although he says he's pitched real well, better than he usually does in the early part of the season, he's had a losing record.
Well, he's got all the pitches. I mean, he can be overpowering at times, has an excellent fastball, breaking ball, and a change.
And strike one to Young, fastball.
But in this ballpark, no matter how good your fastball is, you better keep the ball out of the air. You have to get the ball down, except when you go way up for the strikeout.
And the curve is too low. Well, he's had a problem keeping it out of the air. The last 2 starts, the Rockies had those 3 consecutive home runs against him in Miami. And then in his very next start, the Giants hit a couple against him. There's a foul off the third base side. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Alex Fernandez has been much better over the years after the All-Star break. And you can see by those numbers.
I've always attributed a little of that to the fact he pitched in Chicago when it's cold early in the season.
Right center field, and that might be exactly the case as Sheffield makes the catch, because he said he's pitched better the first half this year than he ever has before.
Exactly, and it's warm in Florida, so that's a little different situation. Let's take a look at the defense. A little different tonight. Moises Alou back in center field. Devon White re-injured his calf, so he's out again. Eisenreich takes over in left field for him, and Alex Arias at third in place of Bobby Bonilla. And I wanted Bobby to be here so you could say good things about him, man.
Bobby, 102-degree temperature. It's game time for game 1. As Ellis Burks takes strike 1 from Fernandez. In fact, was struggling so much last night that the trainer went to his room at the hotel in the middle of the night to give him some medication to help him sleep. As he was just, feverish. But he still insisted on being in there for the 11 o'clock game this morning.
Well, who says these players aren't tough? Bobby Bowe has always been a player, though.
Reunited with his longtime manager from the Pirates, Jim Leland. And that's a foul off to the left. Just over Jim Leland. Standing at the edge of the dugout. And the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Ellis Burks. And there's a look at beautiful Coors Field in downtown Denver. And as usual, a big crowd is here. I mean, they've sold out every home game here for the last 3 seasons. Or virtually that. That curve misses. 2-2 the count. Sort of an automatic. Rockies play at home. It's 48,000 plus. When Ellis Burks comes up, you get into the Rockies' power, and you stay in it for a while. Look out now. You've got Burks, Walker, Galarraga, Bichette, and Castilla. 5 home run hitters in a row. And Burks had that great season last year. Got off to a terrible start this year. But he got hot about 3 weeks ago. Lifting his average from below 200. There's Castilla. The Blake Street Bombers. And down on strikes goes Burks.
And that's what Fernandez can do. He can make you conscious of the fastball inside. Then he goes away with the little slider on the outside. And that's very difficult to handle. See how he set him up by coming off the plate inside. Now he has him chase the slider away. Nice pitching there, especially with 2 strikes.
And here's Larry Walker. Look at that batting average. 417. 18 homers, 52 batted in. There's a strike on the inside.
In the past, you've always been able to pitch Larry Walker inside to get him conscious of that, and then you could change speeds on him. He has adjusted to handling the ball inside much better, although you see they're still trying to stay in on him. And I think that's the only way that I've seen him be able to pitch him consistently to get him out. But you've got to have a good enough fastball that you can stay in there and then change up away.
One thing with Walker, too, this year, he has hit extremely well both in this ballpark and on the road. Just missing inside with the fastball. And the count, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I think the first 3 pitches will tell you how they're going to pitch him.
He's hitting nearly 400 on the road this year, and for better power on the road. That's foul. Took something off that pitch.
I think he really wanted to get that one away. That's what they really want to do. And you can't afford many mistakes with Larry Walker because he is swinging the bat so well. You stay inside, fastballs in, and then you try to change up away from her backdoor breaking balls.
There's the pitch in.
The slider.
3 up and 3 down. We head to the second inning. Conine coming up, 3-0 Florida. Field in Denver. Here we go to the second inning. The Marlins coming up with one of the last vestiges of the expansion Marlins, Jeff Conine. Conine hit .293 last year and over 300 the 2 years prior. In fact, his worst average is a Marlin .292. Thus, they're all a bit mystified as to his slump this year. He sat out 4 straight games as a starter anyway earlier this week. Getting in again last night. You see, his average year in Florida was excellent. Now, he was in a slump that lasted for more than 100 at-bats. But then here on Saturday, back in the lineup, Jim Leland said he was hoping that maybe he'd get one in the air and get himself a cheap home run here. Well,
a cheap home run?
He hit a long home run, and Leland said, hey, it was not just a home run, but it would have been a homer almost anywhere. He whomped it. Well, he was trying to hit one right there, and down he goes.
Let's take a look at how you pitch a 400 hitter if you're Alex Fernandez. Larry Walker was hitting in the first inning. As I said, I think you have to stay inside on him. Fastball in. Fastball in again. Slider in. Fastball in. There's a slider in. Every pitch he threw him in that sequence was in. But I don't think you can just stay there. You're going to have to start going away just to set that up. But when you have to get him out, I think you have to go inside. But again, you have to have a good enough fastball to do it, and Fernandez does have that.
Greg Zahn in the dirt for ball 1. Greg Zahn, the nephew of longtime Major League catcher Rick Dempsey, who is now an advanced scout. Greg Zahn, who, like his Uncle Rick, came up with the Baltimore Orioles originally. And he is thrown out by Eric Young. So Zahn is retired. 2 men down.
John, you mentioned that Jeff Conine was, one of the original Marlins. So was Alex Arias. They're the only 2 that are left from that original expansion draft.
Conine's still a little bit upset with himself.
Well, when you're struggling, I mean, that's what happens. I mean, you try to think back through, why did I miss those 3 pitches?
By the way, Rick Dempsey was an advanced scout last year. This year, he is managing in AAA for the New York Mets at Norfolk.
Why do the catchers always manage? I mean, I guess because they're behind the plate, they can see everything, so they're always involved in the plays, I guess.
Or maybe it's the same reason that they became catchers in the first place. They just don't know any better. I notice you're not.
That's a pretty good point.
I notice you're not managing.
No, you're right, but I mean, that's a pretty good point. I guess you're right. They don't know any better.
I mean, catchers take all that abuse, right? I mean, you get banged up all the time. Guys hit you with their backswing, foul balls you, break your fingers, you got bruises all over your body. And, I mean, managers, they take all of this verbal and mental abuse.
Well,
right?
You're right.
Every fan feels they know more about the game than any manager does. Become a manager, Joe, immediately you're an idiot. Right? I mean, not in fact, but a lot of fans think you are.
Well, that's true. They always question what you do. He just walked Alex Fernandez. Fernandez had a .217 batting average, so he wasn't completely an out up there. He has a chance of getting a base hit every once in a while. Anytime you're a starting pitcher and you hit over 200, that's like a regular player hitting over 300.
Well, he was 5 for 23, and 4 of his 5 hits were doubles.
Right, he's a good hitter. That's over 200 is good for a starting pitcher.
Castillo moving the hands up the bat as if to bunt, taking a called strike from Jamie Wright. 3-0. The Marlins ahead. We're in the second inning. Castillo takes outside for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jim Leland said one of the reasons he took the Florida job was that they had some excellent young talent. Guys like Castillo, Renteria, Charles Johnson. But he said on top of that, he says, if they end up having good long careers and become big stars, it looks like the Marlins would have a commitment to keeping them.
Right.
And he just said it wore him out in Pittsburgh, where they developed some young stars, and he said it seemed like we were developing them for somebody else. They'd play there 6 years and go on. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The appeal. No, says third base umpire Ed Montague. 2-2.
Well, they'll take a look at home. This is an angle. You'll take a look here. Pretty close, but I mean, all of them are always going to look close in slow motion.
season.
No.
2-2.
Man, look out. That's what you call being a little tardy.
I've got in the stands very quickly. When you come to a ball game, keep your eyes on the ball.
I don't know if that would have helped there, John. That one got in there so quickly, no one had time to move.
2-2 the count. Strike 3 call. So Wright gets Castillo. Galarraga, Bichette, Castilla. The power's up for the Rockies, 3-0. The Marlins are leading from Denver. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. The Marlins 3 and the Rockies 0. And the big guns are coming up here before the big crowd here in Denver, and they expect to see a few home runs when they come to this ballpark. They expect to see a few runs scored, and that usually is the case. Now, one thing that they didn't see here was the longest home run ever hit by this man. It came last week in Miami. 529 feet was the official measurement. A shot that had everybody just astounded against Kevin Brown, no less. To the left of that Jackie Robinson insignia, and a little more than halfway up that upper deck. What a shot.
That was a true big fly.
Galarraga having another great year. He leads the major leagues with 66 RBIs, 16 homers. He is 6th in the National League with a .338 average. And he's an outstanding first baseman. Fastball misses from Alex Fernandez.
The thing that his teammates was happy about was that was hit on the road, so they couldn't say that Coors Field had anything to do with it.
It was hit at sea level, no question about it, in Miami. Popped up, and that will go out of play. The part that really is astounding, as if the home run itself was not totally astounding all by itself, was that it came against that man, Kevin Brown, who's got the great sinker, who almost never gives up a home run of any kind.
That was not a sinker. That was a little breaking ball, and it didn't break much. It was supposed to be a slider away, and he got it over the middle of the plate.
2-1 the count now to Galarraga. Bichette and Castilla will follow. These are the guys, or at least two of the guys, Galarraga and Bichette, who had the 3 consecutive home runs the last time Fernandez faced him. He hurries in time. Galarraga thrown out by Alex Fernandez. 1 out.
See, that's the thing that Fernandez can do to keep the ball in the ballpark today. Stay inside on all the hitters with his fastball and then move his other pitches out away from him. See, Galarraga has to go out and get this. Watch this. See how he extends out there to try to get this ball? Well, that was set up because he had fired him up a couple of times inside. And Fernandez takes his time and makes a good throw.
The 0-9 covering for the put out. And here is Dante Bichette. Well, the Rockies had those 3 consecutive homers against Fernandez. We mentioned that a couple of times last week. Then here last night, the same 3 guys hit consecutive home runs again against a different Florida pitcher, against Rick Helling. That was in the very first inning of the game here last night, or actually yesterday afternoon. It ended up last night after a long rain delay. There's Vinny Castilla. He's on deck. Bichette lifts a foul down the right field line. Dante Bichette, a much trimmed down version of the Rockies left fielder. He took off about 30 pounds or so from last season. He had the knee problems and had some surgery finally. He's been playing with that for a few years. He had the knee surgery. He's been having to wear a brace much of this year, but now lately he's been going many games without it. And having another fine season. This is for a ball. Bichette. 302 average, 9 homers, 48 batted in. Which for him, that's kind of a slow start with the home run back.
That's the pitch, like I said, to me, is the key to his success today. Letting all the hitters know that they have to protect inside, and that'll open up the outside part of the plate for him. You have to have a good enough fastball to do this, and Fernandez does. See, this is a fastball right in on the hands. He did the same to Galarraga. and then he went away. So let's see what he does with Bichette here. He's going away.
Slider. Is that a slider or a cut fastball?
It looked like a slider. I don't think he throws many cut fastballs. That was more of a slider. There was rotation there.
Threw it hard. 2-2 the count. But it definitely looked like a slider. That was...
You call that one? I have to see them actually cross the plate before I can call them.
No. They throw pitches like that in cricket. They call that the googly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rarely seen, though, here in the States.
You know, that's a changeup. He was trying to throw a changeup away.
Well, I'll say this. It was unhittable. 3-2 the count to Bichette. One out, nobody on here in the second inning. 3-0 for the Marlins, although in this ballpark, that's not much of a lead at all.
Marlins, I mean, when you come in a place like Coors Field, and like as Baylor says, they have so much confidence in themselves here in this ballpark. Actually, 3-0, you're behind. At least that's the way they feel.
Yeah, you better not stop at 3, that's for sure. 3-2 the count. He struck him out.
Good fastball. That's the point I was saying earlier. If you're going to throw the fastball and get it up with these guys, make sure you get it way up. If you get it around the belt, they're going to hurt you. This is a good high fastball. And watch, this pitch is up. Actually up and out of the strike zone, but up there, I mean, Fernandez is awfully tough. See where that pitch is? You cannot get your bat back up in time to catch up with that one. Good pitch.
And he has struck out 3 of the first 5 Rockies hitters. Now, here's a guy that is a great fastball hitter. 15 homers, 43 batted in. He'll be looking fastball here from Fernandez. Right through the middle. Base hit.
Benny Castilla is exactly what you said. He's a first ball fastball hitter. Everyone knows that. And when you have a guy that's a first ball fastball hitter, truthfully, you should throw the fastball, but not throw it for a strike. Throw it up and out of the strike zone or down and away. That pitch is right up over the plate. And Castilla just grounds it right back through the middle for a base hit.
So he's probably fortunate that Castilla didn't do more with that
right.
one.
Most people say, well, you know he's the first ball fastball hitter, throw him something else. No, that's not the way to do it. You just try to work with, make him chase something.
2 down, Castilla at first, and here is Jeff Reed, the catcher. Breaking the ball in there for a strike. Now, Reed has hit so well that he has been taking a lot of the catching time away from Kurt Manwaring. Free agent they picked up, formerly with the San Francisco Giants. Last year finished up with Houston. There's Manwaring. He caught the first game today. But they like the offense that Reed has given them. 89 at-bats, hitting over 300, and he's got 5 home runs. Manwaring, more of a defensive specialist. Good at handling pitches, strong arm. But not much in terms of hitting the long ball. One ball and 1 strike to count. To Jeff Reed. 2 down, Castilla at first base. And 1 ball and 2 strikes now. Now the Marlins will travel after the ball game. They're heading out to San Francisco for a 3-game series with the Giants, and then they go home to start interleague play. It's almost upon us. Interleague play will actually kick off next Thursday night. The Giants and the Texas Rangers will play the first game. Strike 3, and that ends the inning. Fast start for Fernandez. He's got 4 strikeouts in 2 innings. Sheffield coming up third when we get back. The ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by Fram Filters, as dependable as the people who use them. Ball 1 to Jason Bates, and or rather to Edgar Renteria. Got the wrong shortstop up there. Renteria leading it off for Florida. It's the 3rd inning. Jamie Wright on the mound for the Rockies. The Marlins batting, leading 3-0. Renteria singled as part of that 3-run first inning rally for Florida. They had 4 singles put together for 3 runs in the first. And that's a foul off to the right and back into the second deck. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Renteria. Jim Eisenreich and Gary Sheffield will follow.
John, I think we should take a closer look and keep our eye on Jamie Wright, the pitcher. After he threw that pitch, which didn't have much on it, it was up. he kind of was shaking his elbow like he was having a little discomfort there. And I'm sure they're watching from the Rockies dugout as well.
And Renteria apparently broke his back there, so he's going over to get a new piece of wood. As he does, we want to remind you about our big Sunday night ball game next Sunday from New York, interleague play. Next Sunday night. The faces may be different, but the fans will never forget some of the most memorable moments in World Series history. Now, 11 years later, Mo Vaughn leads a new group of Red Sox into Shea to face some new Mets such as John Olerud and Carlos Baerga. Sunday night, 8 Eastern on ESPN. Renteria with his knee back, bounces it foul. Interleague play kicking off on Thursday, and Sunday night baseball will get in the act next Sunday with the Mets and the Red Sox. Never in the long history of Major League Baseball have teams from different leagues faced off in the regular season until this season.
It'll be interesting in the Texas game. I see where Willie Mays and Nolan Ryan are going to throw out the ceremonial first pitches at that ball game.
What I'd like to see is Nolan Ryan to throw it and Mays to hit it.
Maybe. Maybe on a computer. One of those computer games.
You saw Willie Mays yesterday in San Francisco. He and Hank Aaron were there as part of the Jackie Robinson Day festivities they had before the ball game at Candlestick as Renteria takes ball 4. Willie's looking awfully well. Some of the big interleague games coming up. The Rockies will be up in Seattle. Colorado will go at it against the likes of Ken Griffey Jr. A lot of slugging will go on in that ball game, most likely. Friday, the Yankees will be in Florida. We understand that that whole weekend series has long since been sold out in Miami. The Orioles and the Braves, the two teams with the best records in the majors. Now, that is really a treat. I mean, the Braves are 41-20, and the Orioles are 39-17, and they'll go head-to-head in Atlanta at Turner Field starting next Friday night. Maybe an October preview. Eisenreich takes ball 1 with Sheffield on deck.
And it appears to me that Wright is not throwing the ball as well as he was in the first inning. I don't know if he just lost his rhythm a little bit because he hasn't been out there for a while, but he is not, his ball does not have the same movement on it that it had in the first inning. Even though he gave up the runs, he had movement on his fastball. So that's not, I mean, the gun is registering high, but there's not much on that ball. Now comes the pitching coach. I mean, you should be, I can see it from here. I know they can see it from field level.
Frank Funk on his way out. Well, Wright had a collarbone problem, and they think that it helped that he was pitching with the problem before, and that it fouled up his mechanics. But in his last 2 starts before he went into the disabled list, you can see he couldn't get the ball over. 12 walks, 7 2/3 innings, and then they put him on the disabled list. He did not do much in the way of a rehab assignment. He pitched 1 inning in a minor league game, and then he pitched on the side here. And Frank Funk said, well, he pitched so well on the side that he looked like he was ready to go.
Well, he looked okay in the first inning, like I say, even though they scored the runs. But here, in the second, he's not throwing the ball.
There goes Renteria. Eisenreich misses. The throw is too high. Sliding under the tag is Renteria with his 11th steal of the year.
I was a little surprised that they put a hit and run on in this situation because he hasn't been throwing strikes. But what you see is Renteria gets a good enough jump that he steals second base. Even though he was protected, he knew that was a hit and run. He still was able to get a good enough jump that he was able to steal the bag. Eisenreich tried to protect him. But 2-0 when a guy's not throwing strikes, it's tough to hit and run when a guy's all over the place.
Now Eisenreich tries to get him over to third base with nobody out. Left center field. Will not get the job done. Bichette with the catch.
Not good hitting right there. With a man at second base and no one out, and a left-handed hitter up with only 1 strike on him, you have to make sure you pull the ball to move him over to third base. And Eisenreich hit a fly ball to left center. You can't do that. You have to make sure you pull the ball.
1 out, and Gary Sheffield comes up. Sheffield drove home 2 runs with a single his first time. They pitched to him with runners at second and third, and he hurt them. Of course, if you don't pitch to him, you've got a Lou coming up next. That's That's not easy either. Lou also drove in a run in that first inning. Sheffield didn't like the call. Strike one.
John, I'm convinced it doesn't matter who hits behind the big hitters in the lineups. They're not going to pitch to him. I mean, I look at Frank Thomas in Chicago. He's still getting the same amount of walks that he was getting before Albert Bell was hitting behind him. You have to, I mean, you can't let the big guys beat you. I mean, you say, okay, I'm going to pitch to him tough. If I can't get him out, then I'll try to get Bell out. That's the way you pitch. And the same thing here with Sheffield. You say, if I can get him out, I'll pitch him tough. If not, I'll try to get a Lou out. You're not going to give in to Sheffield because Moises Alou is coming up next. You're not going to give in to Barry Bonds because whoever's hitting behind him. You're just not going to do it. I mean, Kent's not going to make him throw the ball down the middle to Barry Bonds.
Frank Thomas has walked 55 times this year with
Albert Bell behind him.
Hit right behind him. That's a foul by Sheffield. 2 strikes to count.
And that's what's amazing to me. And I mean, you still have to tip your hat to Frank for doing the things that he does. I mean, he walks like this every year, and he still ends up with these big numbers. And right now, you know, we're talking about Sheffield and Bonds not being able to get enough pitches to hit, and Thomas is walking more than they are. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
And Frank Thomas is hitting .391, 16 homers and 55 RBIs. Look out.
And that's the thing that always seems to start a problem because they always hit Sheffield when there's runners on base, a man at second base, a base open. That's been the real problem that Leland has had and Sheffield has had. And that's supposedly what happened last time when Galarraga was hit. It was because they had hit Sheffield earlier in the ballgame.
And the time before, Galarraga had hit a home run 529 feet.
Yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with it.
It was a coincidence.
Yeah, it was just a coincidence. Well, it was no balls and 2 strikes. Watch this pitch. I mean, he doesn't have a chance to get out of the way. This ball is running in, and he tries to get out of the way, and he can't. And Sheffield is very upset, and the boos you hear is because he's walking the first base. He's taking his time, but that's also why he wears that piece of gladiator material on his left arm. A lot of hitters are doing that. Barry Bonds wears it. So does Mo Vaughn. A lot of the hitters. Ken Seiko, they all do it. And there you see he's been hit 9 times. I think it's not so much how many times he's been hit, but the situations in which he's been hit.
Although, I mean, really, Joe, I mean, this was a 2-strike count. This wasn't in like a 2-0 pitch or a 3-0 pitch, right? I mean, you expect 2-0 or 2 strikes that this guy is going to go after him at that point.
Yeah, but I don't think you can convince Sheffield that he wasn't coming in, maybe not trying to hit him, but knock him down or come off the plate inside.
Moises Alou, he singled home a run his first time. 2 men on, 1 man out. Well, Alou's got 46 RBIs sitting behind Sheffield. And Jeff Kent with the Giants has got 51 RBIs sitting behind Barry Bonds. We mentioned Bonds a few times today, and we should also mention, Joe, that he hit 2 home runs today against John Smoltz. So Smoltz pitched to him. Right center field. Into the alleyway. And perhaps the best revenge of all. 1 run scores Renteria. Sheffield is coming home, and he will score. Alou for third. Swing. It is 5-0 for the Marlins.
And that's what Gary Sheffield does. He tries to make you pay for walking him. You know, for hitting, that ball was in the gap. He made up his mind he was going to score, and he did a good job of base running there to be able to score. And the one thing we've seen tonight, the Marlins are making good base running decisions in this ball game. Again, I just don't think Wright has very much on the ball right now. There's a pitch is down, and he still finds the gap in right center field. One hops the wall, short hops the wall, and it bounces back. But watch, Sheffield is coming all the way around and then going over to third base. Smart base running again by the Marlins.
The infield has come in. Now breaking for the plate is Alou. He runs into the pitcher, and interference is charged against Wright. He would have scored anyway, it looked like. But once Wright obstructed him off the base path there, Alou is awarded home plate, although it hurt much more scoring this way. Well, the Marlins now lead 6-0, but Wright is taking out their biggest hitters 1 by 1 here.
What you have to remember on this play, if this would have been a batted ball, well, then the runner has to avoid the fielder. But since this ball had bounced off the catcher, then the fielder cannot obstruct have interference on the runner coming home. But if it would have been a ground ball, then he would have had to avoid the fielder.
And Bates throws out Arias, and that is the second out of the inning. So it is 6-0 for the Marlins. 3 more runs home here. By the way, Alou got credit for a double and 2 RBIs on his ball, and he went to third on the throw home. And then a wild pitch is the scoring, allowing Alou to score. And right now, he doesn't look like he's feeling very well. Conine chases a bad ball. Looks like Conine just kind of pulling off the ball here, Joe.
Well, when you're struggling, it's usually 1 or 2 reasons. You're not seeing the ball well, or you're pulling off. Those are usually the 2 things that you have to check first. Make sure you're seeing it out of the pitcher's hand.
And Lou is still trying to get rid of the pain here.
Well, you see the ball bounces away from Reed, and there you see Wright trying to come to field it to throw to the plate. But you cannot block the runner off without the ball. Remember that. But again, if that ball would have been hit by the batter, then the runner has to avoid the fielder.
Yeah, then it's just sort of the opposite.
Yeah.
He can't hit the fielder unless the fielder's already picked it up.
Right.
1-2 the count to Wright. And 2-2. 3 more runs in here. 2-run double by Alou. That came right after that man. Gary Sheffield was hit by a pitch. And Alex Fernandez. He throws pretty hard, Joe. You think, and he's been pitching inside anyway.
Well, he's throwing pretty well right now, and he's got a 6-run lead.
Jason Bates in the sunshine. 3 more runs. It's 6-0 for the Marlins. Early yet, though, in Denver. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Glad to have you with us. We are in Denver. Suddenly, it's a beautiful late afternoon, early evening here. The sun is shining brightly. But the hometown team is getting clobbered here early, 6-0. But then again, this is Coors Field. And as those heavy clouds create quite a glorious tableau high above the ballpark, the fact of the matter is that the Rockies are well capable of scoring 6 or 7 runs just like that. Jason Bates leading it off, the pitcher. Amy Wright follows him. 1 ball and 1 strike.
I agree with you that the Rockies have the ability to score a lot of runs, but Fernandez also has the ability to hold them down. That doesn't mean pitch a shutout, but he also has some margin for error now because he has the 6 runs. So he'll be just trying to make sure that if he gives up any home runs, they'll be solo home runs.
The game at the end of 1995 where the Rockies cinched the wild card berth. They played the Giants here, the final game, and fell behind 8-2 and ended up winning the ball game. I don't remember, 11-9 or some crazy score like that. But I think that 8-2 lead for the Giants that day lasted about 2 innings. But as you say, Alex Fernandez was not pitching that day against the Rockies. That's a ball. Rockies have been a little more potent even on the road this year. It was the rap on them before that once they left the friendly confines of Coors Field that they couldn't hit at all. This year they've hit real well away from home. Bates fouls one away, and Alex Fernandez knows full well he was breezing along with a 4-0 lead into the 6th inning 10 days ago in Miami at sea level against the Rockies when they unloaded 3 consecutive home runs against him. And then they eventually won that ball game in the 9th against Rob Nam. 3-2 the count. This is a big start, I think, for Fernandez, too, because he's an important man in this pitching staff. He's given a lot of money to come home, pitch well. And the last couple of times out in particular, both at home, he pitched very poorly. Left field. Nice and right in foul territory. And that is out number 1. Well, Don Baylor has done a few things differently on the road this year to try and improve their road play. We asked him what they've done.
I took all the notes I could from players last year, some of their complaints, maybe going into the Astrodome, the lighting's different. So let's come out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and work out and get accustomed to the surroundings. It's no different than the NBA when they get to town have a shoot-around. It's the same thing. Players can get focused on baseball. We do some other fundamental things with our pitchers. We do cutoffs and relays in new ballparks. So all those things have been advantageous to us this year.
Jamie Wright, the hitter, the pitcher. This is Castillo, and that is the second out.
Well, I think any time you struggle like they have on the road in the past couple of years, you have to try something. And I actually think it's a good idea because when you go into places like the Astrodome, the lighting is different. You do have to make an adjustment. And what he's trying to say is I don't want them to go 0 for 4 before they make the adjustment. I want to give them a chance to make the adjustments during batting practice, see that the field is different, see that the lighting is different, and maybe it'll just save us some at-bats.
Well, you see, last year they lost nearly 2 out of every 3 road games. They didn't hit, they didn't pitch, they didn't do anything well on the road. So they've done some things better. Their hitting's been better, and their winning percentage has certainly been better. We'll see, on the other hand, Joe, in this long season, the longest of all sports seasons, if they can keep that up on the road. Eric Young, Renteria, played a tough hop and did it nicely. So Fernandez is rolling right now. We're going to the 4th inning. 6-0 Florida. Zahn leads it off for the Florida Marlins. We're into the 4th inning now, and he takes a called strike from Jamie Wright. 6-0 for the Marlins. Zahn grounded out to second his first time. A switch hitter batting left-handed. Chases that high one. Bichette drifts back, and there is 1 away. Marlins put together a 3-run 3rd inning rally with the benefit of only 1 base hit. Moises Alou. 2-run double was the only hit of the inning. A walk to Renteria. Sheffield got hit by a pitch on an 0-2 count. Right after that, Alou hit the 2-run double, and then he scored on a wild pitch. Here's the pitcher, Alex Fernandez. Bates backs up, slings it over the first, but Colorado has to stretch out to bring it in. Out number 2. Say, friends, tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, Bob Lee hosts Outside the Lines, the Tiger Woods Effect. Outside the Lines takes an in-depth look at Tiger Woods, including computer analysis of his swing and his impact on the PGA Tour and the whole Tiger Woods phenomenon. That's Outside the Lines, the Tiger Woods Effect. Tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern, 5:30 Mountain Time on ESPN. Because we are in the mountains.
Yeah, you're right.
We have come to the mountains. Actually, what do they call it? The Front Range. We're in Denver, the Mile High City, right adjacent to the Rockies. 1 ball, 1 strike to Luis Castillo. Leadoff man has had an infield hit, starting a 3-run rally, and he has also struck out. Two and 1 the count. Here you see the proximity of Coors Field, the home of the Rockies, to downtown Denver.
Beautiful.
Six to nothing for the Marlins here. That is a shot right to Vinny Castilla. Castillo. To Castilla. Este es un robo. Ay, caramba. The power's coming up. Stay with us. Sunday Night Baseball from Denver. And we go to the last of the 4th. The power is up for the Rockies. Ellis Burks with a swinging strike, a foul tip into the glove of Zahn. Burks, Walker, and then Galarraga. And if anybody gets on, then Bichette, then Castilla. 5 sluggers in a row here for the Rockies. But so far, they've just been shut down by Fernandez.
Well, we talked about that at the beginning of the show, that he's capable of pitching a great ball game and keeping these guys in the ballpark. He has a good enough fastball, breaking ball, changeup. He has all the pitches, and when he has his control, he can usually dominate the hitters.
Down the right field line, just foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Burks. He struck out his first time. One of the 4 strikeouts for Alex Fernandez in the first 2 innings of the game. There's only been one Rocky who has reached base so far. That was Vinny Castilla, who hit a single to center field in the second inning. Larry Walker, the 400 hitter, is on deck. And Galarraga, the league's leading RBI man. Just off the outside with a 94-mile-an-hour heater there.
Good pitch. Good two-strike pitch. You know, a lot of times you get a hitter to chase that. Burks had the discipline enough to lay off of it.
2-2. Deep and foul. Very much foul and very deep.
Very deep.
Yeah. It's 347 feet to the left field foul pole here. You get the panoramic look from center field at this ballpark. 350 down the right field line. Strike three call.
I'm going to show you a little bit of why Larry Walker's hitting 400, but I'm also going to show you over the course of the next few weeks the swings of a lot of great hitters in this league. Let's take a look at this. That's the white is the line where the ball was coming. Now look at this. Anywhere he hits the ball, in that zone, he's going to be able to hit the ball hard. And that tells you, that gives you more margin for error. If you can keep your swing level through the zone longer, you'll be able to hit the ball harder. And that's what Larry Walker's doing better this year than ever before.
2-0 to Walker.
And we'll show you sometimes why guys with a smaller swing pattern here, you know, where they can hit the ball, are the reasons that they hit for a lower average. But that is almost a perfect swing on a low fastball, so he did not uppercut it.
2-1.
But he's having trouble with Fernandez because Fernandez, he set him up the first time up by going inside with all hard stuff. Now this time he gets 2-0, he comes with an off-speed pitch, but it's also inside. And you see Larry Walker looking for a fastball, not able to handle it. Another fastball, good pitch.
2-2.
So far he's been able to keep Larry off balance simply because of what he did to him the first time up. He has not gone away yet. He should before this at-bat's over.
Well, the breaking ball, and that fooled him badly. Another strikeout. Walker has struck out twice in this game.
Well, he finished him off with another good breaking ball. I think if he would have taken this pitch, which is ball, you see he's set up outside. That's what I thought they were going to do. He was set up outside, and the catcher was set up out there, but it's a breaking ball down and in, and Walker's fooled by the speed of the pitch way out in front.
Now, why would the catcher be out there like that on a breaking ball?
Well,
This Galarraga takes ball one.
what you do is because you pitched him inside the entire first two at-bats, you were going to throw the ball outside off the plate, try to get a backdoor breaking ball on the outside. That's what they were trying to do.
Galarraga in on the fists, and he fouls it back. 1 ball, 1 strike. Galarraga hit one back to Fernandez his first time. 2 down, nobody out. He has struck out both Burks and Walker. This doesn't happen too often this year. I'm sure Walker came into this game hitting .417.
And especially against right-handed pitchers. Right-handed pitchers, you know, are not going to be able to strike Walker out that often. You know, left-handers, yeah, they can make some pitches on him and get him out. But I think Fernandez, like I said before the ball game, he's equipped to do this. And the first at-bat was the key at-bat.
Did he swing? No. Off the outside, check swing, and the first base umpire, Bruce Dreckman, ruled in favor of Galarraga. 3-1. Dante Bichette is on deck. 6-0. The Marlins are leading, last of the 4th inning. That is a strike.
No, he got hit.
But the first base umpire just ruled a swing.
No, but he got hit. The umpire, he was hit.
But if you swing...
I know, if you swing and you get hit, it's considered a strike, but he was hit. I don't know what the first base umpire was signaling, but he got hit.
Well, you know, maybe...
All right, let's take a look at this pitch. Now watch. No, he doesn't swing, so he's trying to get out of the way. He was just hit. Now watch, he does not commit to the swing. He starts it, now he stops it, and he's hit long before he swings.
All right, so it's a good call.
Yeah, it's a good call.
I'm thinking maybe the plate umpire, Crawford, as you see, Galarraga, has been hit quite often.
Yeah.
But the plate umpire, Crawford, pointed Galarraga to first base.
Yeah.
And Dreckman apparently thought that an appeal was being made. So he wrote, oh, yeah, swing.
Well, he definitely didn't swing. I knew I knew that just from looking down. He was starting, and then the ball just ate him up inside.
And through the legs of Zahn, and Galarraga moves to second with Dante Bichette at the plate. Well, we saw Sheffield get hit, Joe. Now we've seen Galarraga on a 3-1 count.
Well, if we get a chance, I want to show you something. Reason. Here's why. There's a wild pitch. Runner goes down to second base. Let's take a look at Galarraga. Well, let's take a look at Larry Walker. Now, watch, the catcher sets up out here. He wants this backdoor breaking ball, but the ball is inside, and he still gets a strikeout. See the catcher set up outside, but he throws a breaking ball down and in. It was supposed to be a breaking ball backdoor. You see the catcher kind of look at him there.
From third base, Arias just got him at first base, and that ends the inning. So one man stranded. We go to the fifth inning now. Renteria, Eisenreich, and then Sheffield coming up. Coors Field in Denver tonight. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball bringing you the Marlins and the Rockies. It's been all Marlins up till now. They lead the ball game 6-0 as we go to the fifth inning. Edgar Renteria leads it off in the right field, and right there is Walker. And on one pitch, Jamie Wright retires Renteria for the first time. And with us is Michael Milken, who has started a special thing here in baseball to try and find a cure for prostate cancer, and all of Major League Baseball is going to get involved in this. So, Michael, tell us about it.
For Father's Day week, June 13th to June 18th, every home run hit in every game, we have $40,000 on our way to $50,000 for prostate cancer research.
For each home run hit. That starts next Friday.
Next Friday night.
The interleague games.
First week of interleague play. And the first game is the Cubs versus Milwaukee at Wrigley Field.
Nice place to hit home runs, Wrigley Field.
Here's Eisenreich, and he takes ball one inside. So you've tied it in around Major League Baseball and Father's Day, the family. Why prostate cancer in particular?
Well, prostate cancer today is the most diagnosed cancer in America. About 1 of every 4 cancers is prostate cancer. It's one of the most underfunded cancers in America in research. And we want people to take their dad.
And that's a base hit for Eisenreich.
Take their dad, take their neighbor, take their father, take their friend out to the ball game for the family. America's Game Baseball, prostate cancer, Father's Day, and we're hoping to raise $5 million from home runs being hit.
So there'll be 56 games, as I understand it, in that period of time.
That's correct.
So you'd roughly expect 100 or so home runs?
100 home runs. If we were playing a few more games in Coors Field, we'd expect some more.
They have not hit any here tonight. And there's ball one. The Rockies do play the Rangers, I guess, a couple of games in that period.
On June 17th, Tuesday, the Rockies versus the Rangers, and we're counting a lot of home runs then.
Well, those two teams, yeah, we got Gonzalez, Will Clark, Dean Palmer. They got some guys who can hit him here at Coors Field, that's for sure. They can hit him anywhere. Speaking of homers, here's Gary Sheffield at the plate. Sheffield has had a 2-run single. He's been hit by a pitch and scored a run. And he takes ball 2.
Well, next Sunday night, the ESPN game in New York, the Mets versus Boston. It's the first time they've played since the 1986 World Series.
Indeed, and of course, now playing in the regular season, the interleague play. Where's this money coming from? Sheffield with a mighty cut there and didn't get it. 2-1. You mentioned 40,000, maybe up to 50,000 per home run will be donated to the cause of fighting prostate cancer. Where's that money coming from?
It's coming from people all around the country, and you can call in 1-800-547-CURE and pledge money, $1 per home run, $2 a home run, and all contributions are matched by the Milken Family Foundation, up to 100%.
So 2-1. So anybody can get involved. This is not just for big companies and corporations. This is anybody in America who wants to help to get involved in fighting the prostate cancer.
In honor of their father, their brother, a relative. Those seats out in center field there for $1. We're looking for participants at the $1 level also in this. It's America's game, and there's plenty of fathers in America.
And there's strike 2 to Gary Sheffield. Well, So again, I mean, this is something that has touched a lot of people. I mean, the prostate cancer. So a lot of people can identify with this.
A lot of people are touched by cancer in America, and I think the breast cancer movement has done a tremendous job of showing us how people can make a difference. 50% of men in America now have a chance of getting cancer.
Sheffield breaks his bat and drives one down the left field line and foul. 2-2. All right, so that number again, give us that toll-free number again. People who'd like to get involved in this, along with the Major League Baseball, to help find a cure for prostate cancer.
1-800-547-CURE. And every cent, every dollar is going to go for prostate cancer research throughout the cities in America.
All right. So in other words, we're in Denver. Money raised, some of that money will go to research right here in Denver.
Right here to the medical programs in Denver, and next Sunday night in New York, will be raised for New York City and Boston, two of our country's leading medical centers.
All right. Now, I know that General Schwarzkopf was supposed to have been here, and had it not been for the poor weather we've been having here in the Rocky Mountains, he would have been here as part of this movement. That is strike 3 to Sheffield. On the corner. And they love that in particular here in Denver.
Well, I'm filling in for him tonight, and next Tuesday night he's going to be here for the Colorado Rockies Texas Ranger game.
All right. Moise Salou coming up now. So General Schwarzkopf battled
prostate
this
cancer.
Yeah.
He's had a successful battle against that, and he's been a great spokesperson for it.
Moise Salou, 2-run double his last time. Some of the other people I noticed, Stan Musial. Stan the man also battled.
Hall of Fame member.
Senator Dole just ran for president.
That's correct.
How are these people all doing? Are they all doing all right?
This group is doing well. Unfortunately, we lose over 40,000 men a year lose their life to prostate cancer in this country.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing great, knock on wood.
This is Joe Morgan, by the way.
We talked earlier. I'm one of those guys over 50. I have to make sure I keep checking.
Well, that's important, right? I mean, you got to go in and make sure that a little preventive maintenance.
I think, as Joe knows full well, African-American men have the highest incidence of prostate cancer in the world. It's about 35% higher than other Americans. And actually, African-American men should be starting to check at 40. Joe's really only 40.
No, I started long before that.
Well, that's the inning. Michael Milken, that number again, 1-800-547-CURE. Thank you, Michael. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sunday Night Baseball, Marlins 6, Rockies nothing. We go to the last of the 5th. That's the view from the lower deck beneath the overhang here at Coors Field. Vinny Castilla will lead it off. Powerful right-handed hitter. Jeff Reed and Jason Bates will follow. Fernandez, something else. There's a good slider for a swinging strike one. Castilla hit a first pitch fastball for a single his last time up there, and that is still the only hit of the game for the Rockies. Fernandez gave up that base hit, and he also hit Andres Galarraga. And only 2 base runners in the ball game. That's foul ball picked up by Arias. 0-2 the count to Castilla. Andres Galarraga. So he's been hit 102 times in his career. He's been hit 7 times this year. The last time before tonight, when he got hit by the Florida Marlins, he charged them out. He charged Dennis Cook, who hit him with a pitch.
But I think you have to know the circumstances. The pitch before was also up and in. So he felt like they were throwing at him. In fact, I guess the National League felt the same way because they fined and suspended Cook as well.
Now, Cook didn't even, as I recall, get thrown out of the game, right? But he got fined and suspended along with Galarraga. 1-2 the count to Vinny Castilla. There's Dennis Cook. He's here tonight out in the bullpen for the Marlins. The curveball struck him out.
Let's take a look at why Andres Galarraga gets hit so often. Let's take a look at, here's home plate, edge of home plate right there. Now watch, he will dive into here, and that's why he gets hit so often. Watch his front shoulder. He goes from an open stance, but watch where he starts. He goes right into the pitch, right there, and the ball is not that far off the plate, hits him.
Now listen to Fernandez afterward as Jeff Reed stands in. Listen carefully now.
Did I hear a Lo Siento in there? I'm sorry.
Lo siento mucho.
I don't think he was very sorry. He was just sorry, Jeff. He didn't have a mucho in there.
Just sorry. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I didn't hear mucho. That's right.
No, he was just sorry.
Jeff Reed with a count of 2 strikes. 1 out, nobody on. Well, the big crowd here at Coors Field is uncommonly quiet. They're not used to seeing games like this. They're used to seeing that fast-breaking offense. They're used to seeing the Rockies shooting base hits all around the lot, which they did in the first game of this day-night doubleheader. They had 11 hits. They had 6 runs and 9 hits on the board in the first 3 innings against Al Leiter, a real tough pitcher. Another curveball, another strikeout for Fernandez. That is his 8th strikeout in 4 2/3 innings.
Well, most good pitchers work off of their fastball, and that's what Fernandez is doing. He's set him up with a lot of fastball, and then he just throws this off-speed pitch, and he just freezes Jeff Reed right there. You see the rotation on it. That's kind of a slow curve. That's not a hard curveball. That's a slow curveball, and it's strike 3.
Jason Bates picked up by Conan in a tough hop. Fernandez gets the foot out, and the Rockies are gone quickly and quietly again. We go to the 6th, 6-0, Florida. Florida Marlins, who have historically just had a terrible time in this ballpark, are coasting a 6-0 lead into the 6th inning, and there is the new pitcher, Jeff McCurry, on in relief of Jamie Wright. And a double switch has been made here, as you see McCurry's numbers. As Walt Weiss has come in to play shortstop, Jason Bates out of the game. McCurry will hit 8th. Weiss hits 9th. Weiss will be the leadoff man in the last half of this inning. Jamie Wright, first game back from the disabled list. They give up 6 runs in the first 3 innings. 5 innings total, 6 runs, and 6 hits allowed. And that earned run average, which was over 8 coming into the game, will not go down tonight. Alex Arias, the hitter, and there's ball 1.
I think he has to be somewhat happy in that he threw the ball well the first inning. Then he really started to struggle. I'm surprised that he was able to shut the Marlins out the last 2 innings, because he lost it after the first inning. He gave up the 3 in the 3rd, but he still was able to struggle and stay out there and keep his team in the ballgame.
In this ballpark especially, but for any pitching staff, there is value just in somebody eating up innings.
Right.
That is a fair ball by Arias. Bichette gives chase. Arias on his way to second. Now the second baseman did not see the throw. Eric Young, looking right into that setting sun, did not see the ball coming in, and he just started running away from it, hoping not to get a hit.
And that reminds me of the old ballpark in Montreal, Jarry Park. The first baseman couldn't see the throws coming from the left side of the diamond. And you'll get a look at it. The ball is hit down the left field line. I think Bichette thought he was going to get there in time enough to hold him to a single, but he does not. Castilla way off the line. Now watch, by the time Bichette gets there, he really thinks he has a shot at him. He hustles and throws it, but it's so high, it's in the sun. And the second baseman, Eric Young, was having problems. And watch Young run away from it. He's backing up, trying to just knock it down, but good job by Larry Walker to back up. And that's what he sees coming from the left field side.
He's just looking right into that. Here's Conan. And it misses for ball 1. Jeff McCurry played intercollegiate baseball at TCU. Also played basketball there. He's a big guy, 6 feet 6 inches tall. Lives in Houston in the offseason now. Conan leans back from it. Conan is 0 for 2 in this game. 2-0 the count. McCurry was with the Detroit Tigers briefly last year, spent most of the season in AAA and got into 55 games with the Pittsburgh Pirates the year before. Now with the Colorado Rockies. There is Arias at second base, nobody out. The Marlins already leading this game 6-0. Well, with this doubleheader, you can go through, and not just a doubleheader, but in this ballpark, you can go through a bullpen in a hurry. So Jeff Conine has done his best hitting as a Marlin against the Rockies over the years. Anyway, no hitless in this doubleheader. Well, that fastball misses. 2 men on, nobody out. Let's go to Bill Pito for an update.
All right, John, our Home Depot rising stars. We check out Pittsburgh rookie Jose Guillen. 2 outs, bases loaded in the 9th. Watch Guillen. Once, twice, 3, 4. Yes, he caught it. He had it all the way. Watch it again. Great work by Guillen, but the Phils beat the Pirates, John, 3-2.
Kurt Schilling. Even with the Phillies having a very poor year, Kurt Schilling showing himself as one of the best pitchers in the National League. 2 men on, nobody out. Here is Greg Zaun. Alex Fernandez on deck. And a top fly, shallow center field. Weiss out. Burks in. Burks. 1 away. And Fernandez, the pitcher, coming up.
We mentioned Fernandez is a pretty good hitter because this is a situation when you didn't have a good hitting pitcher, you would go ahead and maybe bunt these 2 runners over, try to get yourself some insurance runs, and, you know, if you could get Castillo to drive them in. But that's a situation where a lot of times the manager will go ahead and bunt with their pitching staff.
Well, Fernandez is wondering if he missed a sign there. He goes over to speak directly to Rich Donnelly, the third base coach. A lot of loyalty to manager Jim Leyland. People like Rich Donnelly, Tommy Sant, coaches who, there's Rich Donnelly, who were with him for years in Pittsburgh. And there's Tommy Sant, the first base coach, and where Jim Leyland goes, that's where they want to go. 2 men on, 1 man out. Fernandez showing bunt. He was just kidding. And this one could be a hit. The throw by Weiss. Great stretch by Galarraga. They got him.
And we talked about how good a player Galarraga is defensively. In fact, we highlighted him in our open. And the fact is, a lot of first basemen would have come off the bag to get that throw and make sure that he gauged it properly, stretched out, and came up with the catch.
Well, it's a good play by Weiss as well, as you see the fake there by Fernandez.
Weiss has actually started towards second base because there was a bunt at the fake. But look at that stretch by Galarraga. Puts his foot right on the inside of the bag, and that gives him as much as he can stretch down the first base line towards home plate. Just an excellent catch there by Galarraga.
Luis Castillo, the leadoff man, runs at second and third, 2 down. That's a foul into the second deck. Castillo has had an infield single and scored a run. He is struck out and lined out, 1 for 3. Marlins 6, Rockies nothing. We're in the 6th inning. McCurry trying to keep it from really getting out of hand here. That is foul off the left field line. This is a big game, 3 RBIs, as you see the in-game box score there. So what's happened up till now. Arias at third, Conine at second. 2 down in the 6th inning. 2 strikes the count to Castillo. Here's McCurry in relief of Jamie Wright. Now he wants the catcher, Reed, to come out and talk with him.
Well, he wants to make sure they have the right signal here. You do not want Reed to be looking for a breaking ball and you throw a fastball, or vice versa, and the ball get away. So they want to make sure that they're using the same sign. They want to make sure that with a runner at second base, they may even want to change the sign. There's Don Baylor. You know, we were talking about Galarraga getting hit a lot. He specialized in getting hit. He stood close to the plate, and he would just turn his shoulder in and take it.
It's hard not to hit him sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, you see he has a record of being hit by pitches.
One year he was with Boston. He got hit 50 times. He broke Ron Hunt's record.
I was going to say, I remember Ron Hunt. He used to wear a padding on the back of his, on his back, so that he could just turn into the ball and take it. Then I knew a couple of pitchers got angry and they started throwing at his head.
McCurry just in time at third base. The runner at third, Arias, held on. That's the inning, 6-0, Florida. This is Joe Morgan, Sunday Night Baseball. We're glad to have you with us, and we're kind of excited in baseball these days because interleague play is almost upon us. It gets started on Thursday. The Giants will play at Texas. That will be the actual first ball game, and big series all around, including the Yankees at Florida next weekend.
Wait a minute, John. Guys like myself get excited over interleague play. Not you. You're a purist. You know you don't like that.
So a bunch of
no, I think it will be great. I'm looking forward to it, and I know you are too, and we're looking forward to our game next week in New York.
Colorado will be at Seattle. They might have to face, in fact, I think next Friday they'll have to face the big unit. Next Sunday, we'll have some interleague action right here on Sunday Night Baseball. Mo Vaughn and the Boston Red Sox taking on John Olerud, Todd Hundley, Carlos Baerga, and the New York Mets, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, 6 Mountain Time. Red Sox, they've had a hard time of it this year, but one thing is for sure, they can hit the ball. And I think a lot of these National League teams, Joe, are a little concerned as to just how much offense they're going to be facing, especially when they go into those American League ballparks with the DH in use, and what the American League umpire's version of the strike zone is. There are a lot of different concerns and elements that adds, I think, an extra bit of spice to these interleague games.
Well, I don't think there are any doubt there's going to be some interesting matchups, especially the natural rivalries, but I think just the fact that you get a chance to see players from the other league that you don't see on a daily basis will be exciting. Doesn't matter whether they're natural rivalries or just other players from the American League and the National League.
Walt Weiss is the hitter. Well, we understand that in most ballparks, the ticket sales have been up over what they would normally expect to get for a game that time of year. So there has been some excitement generated just based on the ticket sales. Beautiful time of night here in Denver. It's just that the Rockies have been just dominated, and that may be the word for it, dominated by Alex Fernandez. I mean, this home ballpark, they average about 8 runs a game here. The ball just flies here, and that man, Alex Fernandez, has just shut them down. What a performance. 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. Only 1 hit allowed. He's got a 6-0 lead on top of that. Well, when National League teams play in an American League ballpark, they're going to have to use the DH.
Right, and I think that's fair.
That's into right center field for a base hit by Walt Weiss. In a different circumstance, maybe he would have thought about 2, but down by 6. No sense in risking it here. And we go to the top of the order. Eric Young, the leadoff man. And if he can get aboard, it starts to get a little more interesting, because then the power, Burks, Walker, Galarraga, Bichette, Castilla, they follow Eric Young.
When you watch the progress that Eric Young has made throughout his career, I mean, you have to pat him on the back. He's really worked hard to be one of the best players in the league.
Right for a double play. Wow. He hit a screamer right to Conine, and Weiss is caught off base. He didn't have a prayer.
No, he didn't have a chance. That's not poor base running. Even though you're down 6 runs, there's nothing you can do. You have to take your lead, and watch. He just takes his normal lead, and the ball's hit behind him. Nothing he can do there. See, he just takes a normal lead. Ball's hit right at Conine. He makes the catch, and he doubles him off.
Well, the first 2 hitters of this inning have just smoked the ball here against Fernandez. But Fernandez got 2 down and nobody on. He got a little lucky break on that one. And he was entitled to it, I think, with the way he's pitched. Ellis Burks, 0 for 2. He struck out twice. Burks not only has gone down twice, but the 400 man, Larry Walker, has struck out twice.
I think in both cases, John, the first at bat set up the problems they're having with Fernandez. He was able to make the pitches that he wanted to make in the first inning against both of these hitters, and therefore he had them thinking about what he was going to do.
Just missing in the inside with a good fastball. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
A lot of times a pitcher will go out there and he'll have a game plan. He wants to pitch Larry Walker inside, but if he misses with a couple of pitches and he has to move the ball out over the plate, then he gets hurt. But Fernandez did exactly what he wanted.
Did he swing? Yes, he did. And it's going to work out well for him. He didn't think so, but the plate umpire, Crawford, immediately told him, yes, you swung. And Burks knew then to run to first base, so he is safe on a strikeout.
Good job of umpiring there by Crawford, too, because a lot of times they'll wait and they'll ask the first base umpire, did he go? But right away he said yes, which tells you what's going on with the play. And you see right there, he did go too far, and Crawford right away says, yes, you did, and that allows Burke to go to first base.
Now, and that's great umpiring,
yeah.
And I think it should be made a mandatory.
But the problem
because
is...
the batter is entitled to know.
Yeah, but what if he's not sure? I think therein lies the problem.
Well, you know what umpires have told me on that play?
What's that?
The good umpires
are sure.
If they, Larry Walker, base hit. To third base goes Burks. So Larry Walker, after striking out twice, gets the base hit here.
Now, this is what we're talking about by making your pitches. As I said before, I really thought that Fernandez should go away once, maybe then come back to inside to Walker. But you watch his pitch, he comes inside again, and he does jam Walker, but it's up a little bit, and when you're hitting 400, they find their hole. So he's coming inside again. He does jam him a little bit, but, that's what happens when you're hitting 400. You hit the line drive.
Well, Larry Walker, so we get a look there as to why he's hitting 400.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt in Larry Walker's mind that the pitch was going to be inside. I mean, you have to look fastball inside if that's the way he's been pitching.
So Walker at first, Burks at third, and that double play, huge. And a strike to Colorado. But umpires have told me, Joe, because Greg Zahn could have gone back to the backstop, picked up that ball, then appealed to the first base umpire, and the umpire could have said, oh, yeah, swing. But the umpires have told me that a good umpire will always rule no swing if it gets to sort of that kind of a ludicrous spot. Deep into right center, but playable. And caught by Sheffield at the warning track.
So you're saying the bad umpires can't make decisions, so next time they don't make the decision, it's a bad umpire?
That's the definition. 6-0 for the Marlins. We move to the 7th inning here at Coors Field. It will be Renteria, Eisenreich, and Sheffield coming up against McCurry. And he takes a called strike. It is 0-1. We saw the call made by Jerry Crawford on the swing and a miss by Burks, on which Burks reached first base. And Joe gave Crawford credit, and I agreed wholeheartedly. He made a decisive call, so Burks knew that he had to run. That's the key. The batter is entitled to know what the call is definitively, whether he needs to run or not. And there's a rule that's a bad rule.
I agree that
now let's say Crawford had
no,
but let's say Crawford had ruled that it was no swing, which is he's entitled to rule no swing, and Burks is entitled to believe that call.
Not run.
So he does not run. The umpire has ruled it no swing. Why would you run and call yourself out for a strikeout, right? Did he swing? The appeal? No swing, says Bruce Dreckman. But here's the bad rule. The plate umpire in that same play rules no swing. Alou stands at the plate, doesn't run. The catcher runs to the backstop, picks the ball up. He appeals to the first base umpire, which is his right. And the first base umpire at that point says, yeah, that's a swing. Well, now the batter has lost his chance to go to first base. And that's not right. That's a poor rule. What umpires have told me in the past is that good umpires in that scenario, if the plate umpire has ruled no swing, the ball gets away from the catcher. On appeal, the first base umpire will also back up the home plate umpire and rule no swing. It's the rules of the game. We purists, we care about the rules of the game. Now, here's the play again, and this is what I'm talking about. Now, let's say that Crawford said no swing. Now, here comes Zahn all the way back to the backstop, and if Burks was not running, Zahn could then appeal the call And Burks has lost his chance to reach first base if the first base umpire rules a swing. Renteria gets the leadoff walk here in the 7th inning. Bruce Dreckman, the first base umpire, he was not asked to make a call in this situation because Jerry Crawford made the ruling himself. And I'd like to just see it made uniform, Joe, on that kind of a call. 2 strikes and a ball in the dirt, whatever. Just make the plate umpires call final in that spot. Then you wouldn't have any odd plays like that.
I'm sure that, I mean, that would work, but I'm sure that you'll have umpires to say, if I'm not sure and I need help. I mean, that's the problem. But I agree with you.
I mean, did you ever have that happen to you? You checked your swing, the plate umpire said no swing, the ball's at the backstop so you don't run?
No, I always just swung and missed.
You never checked?
No, I just swung and missed. No, but I agree with you. I mean, it does happen frequently, to be honest with you. I mean, where sometimes, call is not made, but I think the call does have to be made. And I agree with you.
Just, I mean, the batter, because
even though you're a purist, I agree with you.
He can run. Be the same as a fair or foul call, right?
Yeah.
You hit a ground ball third base side, and one umpire calls it fair, and then they appeal to another umpire, and he calls it foul. Well, if you believe the first umpire and you didn't run, well, you're stuck. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's the other school of thought, though. If you're Ellis Burks in that spot, 2 strikes, you need base runners. You swing and miss at a wild pitch. Well, run. You've got a free base.
Yes. If he does that, but I mean, you're not going to, well, you always figure you can get a base hit.
Well, it hurts your average. I mean, even if you reach first base, your average goes down.
Yeah, but I mean,
strikeout.
A lot of guys will take, let a ball hit them in that situation, too. And I think that's smart if you need base runners.
Smart if you're Don Baylor or you're Ron Hunt, you're wearing a flak jacket. 1 ball, 1 strike to Eisenreich. He's 1 for 3. Sheffield is on deck. 1-2 to Eisenreich. Oh, the interleague play beginning this week. The general consensus among National League people is it will be more difficult for the American League teams when they come to the National League parks as they lose the designated hitter. That's a big part of their lineup most often. And the managing decisions are a little bit different as well. Eisenreich has a base hit. 2 men on, nobody out, and Sheffield, the slugger, coming up.
Well, I think one of the pluses if you're an American League team coming over, you probably will not have to score as many runs in National League parks to win because the parks generally are going to be bigger than the American League ballparks. But you're right. I mean, the adjustment of having pitchers hit, it's kind of like the World Series. I mean, it's the exact same thing. In the World Series, we use the designated hitter in American League parks and do not use it in National League parks.
And, of course, in the last couple of weeks, American League pitchers have started taking batting practice in anticipation of having to bat in games, which worries their managers that somebody might get hurt doing something that they never do. 2 men on, nobody out. Here is the dangerous Sheffield. Outside. Well, with Sheffield, you keep thinking at any moment he's about to break out. He's going to have one of those weeks where he hits 6 or 7 home runs and destroys everything in front of him. But it hasn't happened yet for him in more than a third of a season. 2 RBIs tonight with a single in the first.
It may sound strange, John, but I think for guys like Sheffield and Bonds, the only time you're going to come out of slumps like this if you maybe face the Atlanta Braves pitching staff, because they go after everyone and they make you hit the ball, and you get a chance to get some rhythm and get some base hits. And I think that the Braves that's why they're such a good team. They say we're going to get everybody.
Even then, Bobby Cox walked Barry Bonds with a runner at first the other day in San Francisco. But Smoltz pitched to him today, and he got 2 home runs. In the dirt, the runners will advance. So now it's 3-0 to Gary Sheffield.
With first base open.
Yeah. And a wild pitch there. Runners at second and third with nobody out. Moises Alou is on deck. The Marlins already leading 6-0. Well, they're going to just they're going to bring the infield in now. it's the walk. Sheffield walks for the 48th time this year. And keep in mind that he also spent a couple of weeks on the disabled list. This is his 48th game played of the year and the 48th time that he's walked. Well, Don Baylor's had better evenings, I think.
Well, I think if you're Don Baylor, you figure if we can just hold them at 6, we have a chance to come back. But if they, put a couple of more runs on the board, it's going to be very difficult for them to come back.
Well, they did swing the bat real well against Fernandez in that 6th inning. Yeah. And were it not for that double play, they probably would have scored. Moises Alou, 2 for 3 with 3 runs batted in. Slider from McCurry, ball 1. Well, he's about run out of room here to pitch around people. There's Renteria at third base, Eisenreich at second base, and Sheffield at first. And the pitching coach, Frank Funk, goes out to the mound to speak to Jeff McCurry. The wind has shifted here, by the way. It had been blowing out toward right field when the game began. And now we've got a little bit of a stronger wind, and it's blowing.
Swirling, John, because it was going to left just a second ago. Then it was going right to left, and now it's
blowing straight out to center. But I don't like that when the wind shifts in the middle of the game, Joe. That always says something bad is about to happen. Look at that. That looks like that movie that came out last summer, Independence Day. Remember those big things came out of the clouds? That was very bad, Joe. Bad for a lot of cities, anyway. 1 ball to no strikes to Alou. 48 RBIs, including 3 tonight. Make that at least 50. Coming in to score is Renteria. And Eisenreich will hold.
Larry Walker has a very fine arm in right field. He charged the ball well and made an accurate throw to the plate, so they had to hold Eisenreich at third base.
All right, so make that at least 49.
But good hitting there by Alou again. He reaches out. This ball's away. Now watch where the pitch is. He goes out there. That's just beautiful hitting. He lines it to right field for a base hit. He didn't try to pull that ball. And there you see the runners coming around and Eisenreich being held at third.
Well, Andres Galarraga leads the league in RBIs. Jeff Bagwell of Houston, then Larry Walker, third place. Jeff Kent of the Giants, fourth place. And now Moises Alou. And that's a base hit for Alex Arias. Eisenreich scores, and so does Sheffield. To third base goes Alou. And they're starting to bust it wide open now. And the bullpen gets busy for Colorado. It is 9-0.
Well, this is kind of a payback situation. This ball is not hit hard. We mentioned how the Rockies did that in the first ball game to win. And this pitch is hit right off the end of the bat and is blooped over second baseman Eric Young's head for a base hit. And Arias drives in 2. Arias drives in 2 more.
So 3 runs have scored for the Marlins here in the 7th inning. They lead the ball game 9-0. Mike Dejan is warming up in the Rockies bullpen. Dejan. Here is Conan. Nice ball. And that's inside for ball 1. Conan 0 for 2 today with a walk. 0 for 5 for the doubleheader. Slider catches the outside for a called strike. 1 ball and 1 strike. This series was supposed to have started Friday night. They got rained out Friday. Then they were going to play a day-night doubleheader yesterday, but they had a 2-hour and 13-minute rain delay in the middle of the first game. So then called off the second one. Off the fists and back out of play. 1-2 to Conine. Then they played this morning at 11 o'clock in the morning. You ever play one that early, Joe?
Yes. In the old days, we used to play doubleheaders on July 4th. Started around 10:30 in the morning.
That's a good idea. I like that idea.
I mean, one of my worst nightmares. I had to face Bob Veal at 10:30 in the morning once.
All right, so there are good aspects of that idea, but they were also bad ones. All right.
That was bad.
You didn't like facing him if
but
conditions were ideal.
And it was worse at 10:30 in the morning.
I remember one year the Giants decided to play their Sunday doubleheaders uniformly at 10:30 in the morning. But nobody came. Nobody came to the first game, so they gave that up. One year they did that, around 1966, I believe. 2-2 to Conine. Runners at first and third, nobody out. And he struck him out. Conine just trying to fight that one off. Couldn't do it.
As I said before, when you're in a slump, either you're not picking the ball up well, which I think is the case here because you see how late he is on that. I don't think he picked the ball up as quickly as he would like, so he ends up flat-footed and just waving at it.
2 down now. Oh, 1 out. Only 1 out?
1 out.
Zahn, the first 5 Marlins reach base in this inning. I beg your pardon. That is the first out right there. Oh, he's ready for a foul ball now. Look at that. Castillo goes to second one, back to first. Just in time to get the double play. The side retired with 3 more runs. Bichette, Castillo coming up 9-0 Florida. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Denver. So far, the Florida Marlins with a big night here, leading 9-0. Moises Alou with a 2-run double in the 3-run third inning, and he has had RBIs in each one of those 3-run rallies, and 4 RBIs total. And this is what they have been seeing all through the weekend here in the Rocky Mountains. It is starting to rain as we get ready to play the last half of the 7th inning. And the ground crew doing their pregame stretching now. Getting ready to perhaps jump into action. We had a 2-hour and 13-minute rain delay in the middle of yesterday's game after being rained out on Friday and then calling off the second game yesterday. They had a 54-minute rain delay in the middle of game 1 today. There's a drive down the left field line by Bichette, and that is a foul ball. Dante Bichette, first ball swing. They have had some good cuts. They made some strong contact here against Fernandez the last couple of innings.
Well, I think they're making some adjustments, and I think he's probably losing a little bit of it. And you can see as the ball hook, if you never lose sight of the ball, that tells you that it went on the left side of the foul pole, which it did. You could see that you never lost sight of it, so it did not go around the foul pole.
Ed Montague with the call.
You have to remember one thing, John. These are pretty good hitters. Not pretty good. They're good hitters on the Rockies. And they make some adjustments as well. And I think that's why you've seen some balls hit harder here in the late innings after you've had a couple of bats against Fernandez. You know what he's doing to you.
Over the outside for a strike. 1 ball and 2 strikes now to Bichette, who has struck out and grounded to third. Alex Fernandez has 8 strikeouts. He has not walked anybody. That's a foul. Like he dropped down a little bit on that one. 1-2 the count. Let me see, just double checking, including the strikeout of Burks, who actually reached base on the strikeout. That's 9 strikeouts for Fernandez, the most he has had in any game this year. 9 strikeouts with no walks. And number 10.
That's just a very good pitch.
Now let's get an update from Bill Pito.
All right, John, Network MCI takes us to Sky Dome, top of the 3rd. Mark McGwire, oh my goodness. 436 feet, his 24th home run of the year, a 2-run shot. A's beat Toronto 7-5, John.
All right, Bill. Mark McGwire. Both he and Ken Griffey on a Ruthian and Maris pace. Griffey's got 25. Now McGwire 24. Tino Martinez of the Yankees has 20. Vinny Castilla has singled and has struck out. 1 ball, 1 strike to count to him here.
I think that'll be one of the big things for interleague play, that people in the National League will get a chance to see some of the sluggers. And they have more sluggers in the American League than they do in the National League overall. And they get a chance to see some of those players.
Well, Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco and those big boppers in the Athletics will be coming to Coors Field for a couple of games. Castilla to right field. Sheffield, it's off the scoreboard. He's got to chase the carry. Castilla around second, and he's held there. Sheffield has a great arm, and he fires all the way through to third base. First extra base hit of the game for the Colorado Rockies.
That's what makes Castillo tough here in this ballpark. He can go the other way. See, he used to try to pull everything. Now that ball's away, and he just goes the other way because he knows if he hits it well enough, he can drive it out of the ballpark that way also. And that's really what helps the hitters here at Coors Field, knowing that you do not have to pull the ball to find a gap or to drive it. You can go the other way, and that makes you a better hitter.
Castilla at second. Jeff Reed, the hitter. You mentioned Oakland coming here. Oakland will be here August 30th and 31st. The question, with some things you've been reading in the newspapers lately, is will McGuire still be with Oakland by that time? And that's a ball. I mean, McGuire is in the final year of his contract, and there's been a lot of talk that he might go somewhere else. Apparently, he has told the A's that he will not negotiate with them during the season. And, of course, the question is, if you're Sandy Alderson, in your situation, can you afford to let McGuire just walk at the end of the year? Maybe you feel compelled to trade him and get some young prospects for him. Well, the Utah Jazz have tied up that series with the Chicago Bulls and Karl Malone. And a big game. Real low score. It was a pitcher's duel in Salt Lake City tonight. 1 ball, 1 strike. Reed with the foul. And get out any way he can here. 1 ball, 2 strikes. They need lots of base runners. I'm John Miller. Joe Morgan. Welcome to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Maybe many of you were watching the basketball game. And the rains have just started to fall here in Denver. They've had a weekend filled with rains. A couple of postponements already this weekend. And a couple of long rain delays. For the Rockies, the rains are not helping now. They're trailing 9-0. They need base runners. And Alex Fernandez, I guess the best thing that could happen if we actually had enough rain to have a delay here was that they might get rid of Alex Fernandez. He has 10 strikeouts. He has allowed only 4 hits. And Alex Fernandez has just pitched about as strong a ball game as you'll see anybody pitch in this ballpark against a real slugging Rockies team. Reed has struck out twice. 10 strikeouts for Fernandez. That is his season's high. His career best was 13 strikeouts almost exactly 1 year ago against the Red Sox. That is foul outside the bag of prison. It seems like the rain's getting a little more heavy now. Big drop still.
Well, this field looks like it's in pretty good shape, though, and it drains well, so I don't think there's any danger right now of it being stopped unless it gets a lot harder.
Well, like all of these new stadiums, they have this subterranean drainage system with pumps. It's almost like a miracle of technology what they can do on a field that was inundated with water. A half hour after the rain stops, the field is not only playable, I mean, it plays almost as if there had been no rain at all. The footing is secure. So fans hanging in there.
Actually, the drops are not as big as they appear on the screen. It's just raining moderately, I would say.
Down the left field line. That is in there. Base hit. Castilla will score. Uh-oh. A huge mistake by Reed. They got him hung up. This club is down by 8 runs. Where was he going?
Well, he probably thought that Eisenreich was going to throw to the plate, but Eisenreich, being smart, was going to just hold the runner at first base, concede the run, which is the right play. And so he threw to second base.
Now, I don't know for sure, but Don Baylor did not look too pleased there.
Well, you can't be pleased when you're down 9-1 and you get thrown out on a play like this. Ball down the line, but see right there, he's smart enough, and Vinny Castilla at third base. I'm sorry,
Yeah, it was Castilla.
Yeah, no, Arias was pointing to second base, was my point. Arias was pointing at second base as well, so he helped make the decision for Eisenreich in left field.
Here's John Vanderwall, pinch hitting specialist, batting for the pitcher McCurry. And there's Reed getting hung up. So that's the Don Baylor could hardly believe his eyes.
Well, I don't think he's so concerned about that today, but he knows that that can happen later on in a tighter ball game, and you just can't make mistakes like that when you're behind.
Vanderwall, 4 for 20 as a pinch hitter so far this year.
4 for 21.
Yeah. Very good prediction. So the ball caught by Arias, and that retires the Rockies. 9-1 the score. We're heading to the 8th inning. Alex Fernandez himself due up. The ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by Blockbuster Video. From comedy to kids movies, Blockbuster has all the hits. So make it a Blockbuster night. By the more than 1,550 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Gold Premium Beer, proud sponsors of Holyfield Tyson 2. And welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball in the rain. Joe Morgan will be soon doing his Gene Kelly routine, singing in the rain. Stay tuned for that. But as you can see, they are bringing out the tarp. They are stopping the ball game here for the rain delay. It is 9-1 for the Florida Marlins. We had a couple of changes that were being affected by Don Baylor. He had taken Ellis Burks and Larry Walker out of the ball game. And we have not seen the Rockies play a good game here yet on a Sunday night game yet, Joe.
No, but I mean, tonight you had to feel that Alex Fernandez was going to throw well, because he has been struggling a little bit, but he says he's been pitching well before the last couple of outings, so he just comes in and he throws strikes, and as we said before the ballgame, he is equipped to be able to handle the Rockies here at Coors Field, because he has all the pitches and he has good location. And I mean, this is a very fine ballgame he's pitched.
So probably the strongest outing against the Rockies in this park since last September the 17th, when Nomo no-hit them here. 9-1 Marlins in the top of the 8th in a rain delay. We will be back shortly.